Unfiltered. Ricky Bo, Bill Colarulo.
Philadelphia Sports Talk. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Hi, it's Tomahawk Thursday, giving away a Tomahawk steak courtesy of Wild Fork. We're doing a little Know the Show every hour. Just now, Silvana asked, what's her most controversial food take? This one should be easy if you've listened to the show.
Actually, it was just brought up the other day.
The turkey, right?
Yes.
The fact that she doesn't like turkey and they don't eat it on Thanksgiving is criminal.
That is pathetic.
Damn.
Some would even say turkey on Thanksgiving is as American as apple pie.
Is there anything better than turkey?
I would rather eat an entire apple pie on Thanksgiving.
So you didn't get the reference.
If I put down a turkey hoagie or a ham hoagie, you would go with the ham?
Yeah.
Oh, see, turkey lunch meat's also delicious.
Yeah, turkey lunch meat's a little bit different, but
if you got it right, you qualify for the Tomahawk steak. We'll do another Know the Show coming up this hour.
It's Tomahawk.
What'd I say? Tomahawk steak. Also,
I'm on the war.
We're going to talk some Eagles right now. Sean Mannion, new offensive coordinator for the Eagles, will be meeting with the media for the first time today. We're going to carry that for you at 10 after 4. All right, at 4:10. So right after Give Me More at 4, Sean Mannion, new offensive coordinator. Really looking forward to that conversation. But I want to get back to a conversation we had yesterday, Ricky. You joined late and talked a little bit about it. Is it a prove-it year for Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni? And this seems to be a very polarizing discussion in the city because a lot of people look at the term prove-it year and say, no, there's no way a two-time Super Bowl appearing quarterback, a Super Bowl champion, a Super Bowl MVP in Jalen Hurts could ever be subject to a prove-it year. You could make the same argument for the head coach. 5 years, 5 playoff appearances, the same amount of Super Bowl appearances because they have the same resume and say, how could it be a prove-it year? I think it's important, though, that we define what you mean by prove-it year. Like, I'm not saying that it's a prove-it year for Jalen and Nick. This is coming from one of Nick's biggest defenders. I believe it's a prove-it year for the coach, too. I'm not saying it's a prove-it year because they're not a good quarterback or a good head coach. It's a prove-it year because it's always a prove-it year in the NFL.
I don't understand why people can't handle those words. Like, whenever you say prove-it year, it's almost like you don't like the person. Like, that's how people think. And, I mean, to me, it's very odd because the prove-it year is a bothersome thing to me in the sense that when I played baseball, it was always a prove-it year. Because why? Because you're always going after the next contract. Baseball wasn't like it is today. I know that we probably have listeners and viewers that think it was always like these guys are getting paid $30 million a year, or if you're a reliever, you're getting $12 million a year. No, you had to prove it every single year. And as a matter of fact, like for us, it was prove it game to game. Why is that a problem? Why is that a problem if in some people's eyes that it's a prove it year for Jalen Hurts or a prove it year for Nick Sirianni? What is the problem with that? That they have to show up, or is it okay for them not to play well at all and just blow the season off?
I think as it pertains to the quarterback, a lot of people automatically relate it to other quarterbacks in the NFL and say, hey, you would never say it's a prove-it year for Josh Allen or Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson. Like, the list goes on and on. But I think what adds to the term prove-it year for Jalen Hurts right now is I'm a firm believer in professional sports that your contract, your new contract that you're about to sign, is less about past performance and more about future projection. And Jalen Hurts right now is at a crossroads in terms of his contract.
Right.
He's got a lot of guaranteed money this coming season, right? A lot of guaranteed money this coming season. He has some guaranteed money in the 2027 season. After that, no guaranteed money in 2028. So next year is going to be the time that he goes to the Eagles and says, I want a contract. I want my new contract. You're not going to pay him and say, oh, well, you brought us to the Super Bowl back in 2022 and 2024, so here's $300 million. It's how are you playing now? That's what you paste it on.
The whole point of a contract is what have you done for me lately? Like, it's a little different in other sports that you get these contracts for what they think you're going to do upcoming. No, let's face it, if you're a terrible quarterback for 3 years, you're not getting a huge contract that next year. if you are a guy who doesn't lead his team, number one, and doesn't make the throws, number two, you're probably not getting that contract from that, at least from that same team the next year.
And I don't think even the biggest Jalen Hurts defender out there, you can't look at the 2025 season that we just watched unfold and say that you were happy with Jalen Hurts' performance. Now, I'm not saying it was entirely his fault. I get Kevin Patullo and the lack of offensive creativity did play a part in the struggles. But there's no one that could look at the 2025 season and say, yes, that performance from Jalen Hurts deserves to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Now, you could go back to them winning the Super Bowl in 24 or his performance in 22 and make the argument that he deserves to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. But guess what? He already got his big contract from that season. He was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL for a very short period of time because every time a new contract comes, it resets the market. So now here we are. And if they're going to give him another contract after this season, he's got to prove that he is worthy of being the highest paid quarterback in the NFL again. And I'm hopeful that he's going to be able to do that under new offensive coordinator Sean Mannion. But I don't believe that the Eagles are necessarily looking at this as being a foregone conclusion. Because if they were, they probably would try to get him under a new contract now.
Right.
Because it would be cheaper now.
Absolutely. Because if he has a monster, let's face it, if he has a monster year this year, they win a Super Bowl, guess what? His price tag went through. He will be the highest paid quarterback in the league for who knows how many years. He will take over the Patrick Mahomes.
If he comes out this year, and we're going to hear from Sean Mannion in about an hour, and he dominates in this new style of offense that the Eagles want him to dominate on, yeah, you're right, Ricky. I mean, he's going to get a monster contract, yes, and he'll be worth every penny.
What if he wins another Super Bowl? Can you imagine that?
Oh,
because that's like, you know what? Seriously, don't back up the Brinks truck. Just back up a bank because that's what's going to be paying him. I mean, he's in a big win-win situation right now. Number one, if he doesn't have a great year, he's still going to get paid somewhere else if the Eagles aren't going to pay him. Number two, if he does have a big year, he's a lifetime Eagle, number one. Number two, it's going to be monster money.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, you'd be talking at least $60 million a year because that's what Dak's getting. He would get more than that.
He'll get more than Dak.
Now, here's what I found interesting, though. We had this conversation yesterday. We went back and forth a little bit with John Kincaid in the morning, and then, middays on our station's been talking about it as well. And then Ian Rappaport comes out from the NFL Network, and he was talking about the A.J. Brown trade situation and the fact that the Eagles want a first-round draft pick in 2027 in return, and he relates it to Jalen Hurts. Now, I'm not sure I agree with this, but listen to Ian Rappaport.
What happens to Jalen Hurts in Philly? Is he going to be there for the next 10 years? Like, his play next year is going to determine a lot. If it's a bad year, I would say everything is up in the air. Having an extra first-round pick in the 2027 draft is something that, I think value-wise would be amazing. That's what you'd want. That would help you kind of restart however you use it.
So, in essence, Rappaport's trying to say they're asking for a first-round pick in 2027 because if things don't go the way we're hoping they go with Jalen, now you got 2 first-round picks and maybe you use one of those on a quarterback. I would be shocked. Well, I shouldn't say shocked. I guess it depends on how bad things looked this year. But I don't see them moving on from Jalen in 2027. I just don't see them giving him the monster contract. That's where I'm saying prove it year. I still think Jalen Hurts is your quarterback in 2027. Do you believe that, or do you think there's a chance he wouldn't be?
In 2027, I think it would be questionable. I mean, if he can't grasp what is going on with the new offense in Sean Mannion, I think you have to really consider what is actually going on, right? Or do you start to say, you know what, maybe it's time to start making that switch? Because what's going to happen here is your line is getting older. And we know that. We know about Lane Johnson. We know about Landon Dickerson. They are getting older. They're getting into their twilight of their careers as linemen. Now, when you make the switch, are you going to end up making a complete switch? So would that be 1 year down the road, 2 years down the road? I think that question more or less gets answered as to when Lane Johnson and Landon Dickerson are ready to call it quits.
It's so hard, though.
I know that's a stupid way to look at it, but I look at it like these guys have been together so long that it's kind of like closing your eyes and understanding who's right next to you.
It is so hard, though, to replace the quarterback, but you're not wrong.
Well, there would be an issue. I mean, in all honesty, wouldn't there be a growing issue? No matter who you brought, you could bring in the greatest quarterback ever to live. There may be a growing issue.
Now, look, I'm a firm believer, and I think you agree with me on this. This is probably all a moot point because I do expect Jalen Hurts to have a big season.
Yes.
He always bounces back, right? Whenever there's adversity facing this guy, he seems to bounce back. But Andrew DeCecco, our Birds insider, was on with the guys in the morning this morning, and he's used this term a lot before in talking about this Sean Mannion style of offense, that the way the Eagles are viewing this is the train's leaving the station, and you're either getting on the train and you're getting on board with this new style of offense, or you're going to be left behind. And I think they're looking at Jalen Hurts in that way, saying, hey, we're hopeful he's going to be able to do it. We believe he's going to be able to do it. We like Jalen Hurts. He's had a lot of success here. But the way we've done things for the last 5 seasons and the offense that we've run for the last 5 seasons is no longer good enough. That showed its ugly head last season, that the offense that they were running is no longer good enough. It's time to evolve. You either evolve or you die. And I think the Eagles are saying this style of offense has shown to be very successful in the NFL. This is what we're running. Jalen needs to get on board with it. And I think he will. But if he doesn't, I think there's a reason why we're seeing the articles that we've been seeing come out from anonymous sources, quote unquote, is I think this is the Eagles' way of almost saying, get on the train or we're going to leave the station without you.
But you don't think Jalen Hurts knows this?
I think he does.
You don't think he's looking at this going, I need to figure this out. I need to understand what we're doing, and I need to be better, or I need to do this X, Y, and Z, and that will get me to where I need to be. I don't think this is a get better situation. I think it's go along with the program situation.
I am curious. I want to hear from Eagles fans on this. Like, do you get angry when you hear the term prove it year for Jalen Hurts or the head coach, Nick Sirianni? Or do you understand in the National Football League, where the old cliche is not for long, that it's pretty much always a prove it year, especially when you're looking for a new contract? I'd love to hear from you. Get your texts and your voice memos in to the Davis Honda text line, 610-632-0975. Because I do believe that if the Eagles were 100% sure that everything was going to work, they would have already given Jalen Hurts his contract. They would have already given it to him. But Howie Roseman did come out, now to play both sides here, after the report surfaced from ESPN saying that Jalen was at a crossroads. Roseman addressed the reports, and he called them unfortunate. This is going back to April 14th now, where Howie Roseman was asked about that article saying that Jalen Hurts and the Eagles were at a crossroads. Here's Howie Roseman.
I think that at the end of the day, we're going to improve this football team. We're going to improve this football team over the course of 3 days next week. I'm excited about that.
This is not the right one.
You must.
Yeah, no, try to find the one of him talking about the reports being unfortunate. I thought that was Roseman 13 from April 14th.
No, not 13, but I will find it for you.
All right, so while you're looking for that, do you have Lori addressing it?
Yes.
All right, so we'll talk about Jeffrey Lurie. Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to find the Howie Roseman one. He just referred to the reports as unfortunate, and that, you know, if we have a problem with a player, we talk to them directly. That was Roseman. But Lurie was asked, why haven't you given Jalen Hurts a new contract yet? Which is an interesting question. Because if you did truly believe in the guy, and if the fans who are angry that people are calling it a prove-it year, well, why aren't you giving him a new contract extension? Here was Jeffrey Lurie back in April.
He's under contract. Oh, I love Jalen. I mean, there's no bigger fan of Jalen than me. Clutch gene, absolutely. You know, the guy, MVP of the Super Bowl 13 months ago, should have been MVP of the Super Bowl right before that against Kansas City the first time. Exceptional and so dedicated. I mean, I think you probably know, spend a lot of time with Jalen, and he's, as I do with most quarterbacks, and incredibly dedicated to the game, to winning, and being a huge winner. I love everything about him. So those things take over time. We never would discuss it. He's in the middle of a new contract now.
All right, so that was Jeffrey Lurie, right? The reason why I wanted to play this for you, and you do have the Roseman clip too, Sil? Is that what you said? All right, well, we might as well play it then. So here's Roseman, and I'm going to explain why I'm playing both of these in a second. So here was Roseman on the reports about Jalen Hurts.
I have seen those reports. Bob and our PR staff do a great job of showing us what we need to see. I would say that we have some faults. One of them is not being direct and honest with our players and the conversations with our players. So for us, if we have any issue with any of our players, we talk to them directly. So, from my perspective, from Nick's perspective, from Jeffrey's perspective, we're not hiding behind anything. We will talk to our players directly. And I think that it's unfair. It's unfair to have these articles written, but I understand it's also what sells at this point. So, yeah, I think it's unfortunate.
All right, so Roseman kind of defended Jalen. He doesn't refute any of the reports. He just says it's unfortunate that these things are out there.
Yeah.
But Jeffrey Lurie couldn't have been more clear. I love Jalen Hurts. No one's a bigger fan than me, and blah, 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 all that stuff, right? The reason I'm playing this is because yesterday I got upset with John Kincaid in saying anyone to say it's a prove-it year for Jalen Hurts is a fool, it's asinine, and there's a lot of fans who feel the same way as John, and they would cite to this. Well, what else do you need to hear? Jeffrey Lurie says he loves him. Howie Roseman said the reports are unfortunate. Those same people, though, would tell you it is a prove-it year for Nick Sirianni, right? It is a prove-it year. So if you're going to listen to what Howie Roseman said about Jalen and you're going to listen to what Jeffrey Lurie said about Jalen, I want you to hear what they said about the head coach, too. Because if you listen to what they said about the head coach, well, then don't you have to believe that as well? I want to talk about kind of the dichotomy of the way Hurts is treated and Sirianni is treated, and why if you say it's a prove-it year for Jalen, you're a hater, but if you say it's a prove-it year for Nick, oh, well, that's completely fine. Wait until you hear what Roseman and Lurie said about the head coach, Ricky Bo, and we'll continue this conversation.
I'm curious.
It is. It's very interesting stuff. So we'll get to that coming up. We'll get to more of your texts as well. You could weigh in. Prove it year? Or does that get you angry to even hear? 610-632-0975. But what did they say about the head coach? Coming up next, Unfiltered, 97.5 The Fanatic, NBC Sports, Philadelphia.
Unfiltered. Ricky Bo, Bill Colarulo.
Philadelphia Sports Talk. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
All right, welcome back into Unfiltered. We're going to carry Sean Mannion for you at 4:10, new Eagles offensive coordinator. Very curious what he's going to have to say. Vic Fangio did meet with the media already, and some of the big things from him is he said he never contemplated retiring this offseason. He still has a couple years left in him, so that's good news. But we were just talking about the Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, prove-it year discussion, because as much as I am a fan of both Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, I mean, people accuse me of being related to Nick Sirianni, for God's sakes. I do believe it's a prove-it year for both guys, because last year wasn't good enough. You're coming into this season, and if this season isn't good enough when you are bringing in a new offensive coordinator and a new offensive system, I do believe it's a prove-it year for both the quarterback and the head coach. It's not based off of just their resumes and what they've done in the past. It's based off of what can they do in the future. That's why it's a prove-it year.
Okay, what would it take for you to say, all right, Nick, you didn't prove it?
If they have a terrible season, if they have a terrible season, they miss the playoffs, and it looks really ugly, then I will come on here and say we might need to consider making a change. It depends on how it looks.
But you also, there's a bunch of things for a coach that they have to consider. Obviously, the locker room. Did you lose the locker room? Did you lose any of the coaches? Are people turning on you? I think that's something you have to look at, right? I mean, because you think back, and any man, you could just go to Rob Thompson because it just happened.
Yeah.
Seems like he lost the team.
A little bit. I mean, the way they've bounced back since. But
and I think also, I think X's and O's and wins and losses have a lot to do with it.
Now, with Jalen, the reason why I say it's a prove-it year, not that I don't believe he would be the quarterback in 27, it's because he's going to be asking for a new contract at the end of the season. That's why I'm saying it's a prove-it year. Now, I wanted to do this exercise because there's a lot of people, including John Kincaid in the morning, who would say, if you call it a prove-it year for Jalen, you're a fool. But then they'll turn around and say it is a prove-it year for the head coach when they both have identical NFL resumes. Identical resumes, all right? So I just played a clip of Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie talking about Jalen Hurts. And the Jalen Hurts defenders will come out and say, see, you guys are crazy. Roseman and Lurie love him. But those same people would argue that Sirianni's on the hot seat. So if you're going to believe Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman when they talk about Jalen, I guess we have to believe them when they talk about Nick too, right? Because here's what Howie Roseman said about Nick Sirianni when they started the offensive coordinator search.
Obviously, I sit here and I feel incredibly grateful that I'm working with someone who, as a head coach, is elite at being a head coach, elite at building connection with our team, elite about talking about fundamentals, game management, situational awareness, bringing the team together, holding people accountable. And when you're looking for a head coach, those are really the job descriptions. And as you're building out a coaching staff, you're talking about being able to do that, being able to have elite play callers on both sides of the ball. And when you think about how hard it is to find those three things and that we have one, we're starting with a huge advantage. So I think that puts us in a great spot.
All right, so that was Howie Roseman referring to the head coach as elite. How about Jeffrey Lurie when he met with the media? What did he say about the head coach?
I feel great. His performance has been nothing short of outstanding. One of the best first, 5 years in the history of the NFL. 2 Super Bowls in the last, 3 years, one of which we won, one of which we were taken away from us. Still bitter. Incredible leadership. Authenticity is huge in my world and in the players' world. Nobody's perfect. I'm far from it. You guys are far from it. About authenticity, leadership, understanding when you should delegate, when you shouldn't delegate, how to lead a team through the ups and downs. We were the only team to repeat as division champions. No one else was even able to do it. In fact, in the NFC East, it's been we were the last team to do it, right? 20 years ago. Underrated to be able to even pull that off. What happened to the other, 7 division winners? They all failed. So it was disappointing not to win the Super Bowl again. Hell yeah. Nobody is hurt more by it than myself and our group, but be realistic. The guy's done a great job.
All right, so now you're hearing Lurie sing Nick Sirianni's praises.
Yeah.
But here's the point, and this is the reason why I wanted to play this. Not to sing Sirianni love. It doesn't matter what they say. It matters what they do. And when I'm talking about they, I'm talking about Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman. They could say whatever they want about Nick, and they could say whatever they want publicly about Jalen. It's what they do. Have they given Jalen Hurts a new contract yet? No. Did they trust Nick Sirianni enough to not go outside the organization and completely revamp the offense by bringing in Sean Mannion? No. So I don't care what they're saying publicly. Both of these guys, even though I'm a huge Sirianni fan, even though I'm a huge Jalen Hurts fan, both of these guys are entering a prove-it year. And to try to shut that down, and for John Kincaid to say that you're a fool and it's asinine to say that about Jalen, but then to turn around and say the exact same thing about Nick makes no sense to me. They both have to prove it this year.
There is kind of no doubt about that. The one thing you have to look at is one kind of goes with the other. A quarterback is kind of the leaning point for a head coach, isn't it? I look at Jalen and I look at Nick Sirianni, and I feel like they're kind of strung together. I feel like they're tied together. And Nick has to count on him. He has to count a little bit on Nick. I think it's one of those things where if the quarterback doesn't succeed, I don't think the head coach succeeds.
It's a great point, because you could look back, even the greatest head coaches in the NFL were not able to survive bad quarterback play. Belichick didn't survive it. Andy Reid, Sean Payton. The list goes on and on. When the quarterback's not playing well, the head coach usually loses his job. So they are tied hand in hand. And I do think this is going to be a great year for both of them. I do. I'm expecting Jalen Hurts to have a monster year. And if he has a monster year, then that means Nick Sirianni, in essence, has a monster year as well. But if they both struggle, there might be some tough decisions. But it does. When you use this about Jalen, it invokes an anger from half the fan base. I don't think you get that same anger if you say it about the head coach, but if you say it about Jalen, people lose their minds. And Silvana's telling me the Davis Honda text line is going crazy with people angry that we would even suggest that it's a prove-it year for Jalen Hurts. I want to hear some texts. You can weigh in. If you want your voice heard, send your voice memo, 610-632-0975. But what do we got on the Davis Honda text line?
You are an idiot if you think it's a prove-it year for Jalen Hurts, who has proven he can not only take this team to multiple championships, but also win a championship, break records, and be considered a Super Bowl legend and have the second highest graded Super Bowl performance in NFL history. You have got to stop. You can start this about Burrow, Allen, Lamar, and Herbert. You know, chokers who haven't won anything in the NFL as far as championships, which is what teams pay quarterbacks for.
So basically, the texter is saying that if he goes out and has a terrible year, I'll just re-sign him for 4 more years.
Yeah, that's everything that texter's talking about. And it's a valid point, is past performance. And I understand it. What Jalen has done already in his career is extremely impressive. But last season was not a great season for Jalen Hurts. And I know a lot of Jalen Hurts fans want to blame everything on the offensive coordinator. That played a part in it. The offensive line play played a part in it. I'm not ignoring any of that. But if you followed up last season with another bad season this year, are we still going to go back to what happened in 2022? Because let's be honest, too, Jalen Hurts in 2024 was good enough to win you a Super Bowl. But you also threw the ball the least amount of any team in the National Football League in 2024. And I'm not saying that it was not by design. It was by design. Maybe Jalen can carry you with his arm when he has to. We've seen him do it at times in that 24 season. Pittsburgh Steelers game, he had a good Super Bowl as well. But if he has a bad year this year, are you going to want the Eagles to still turn around and give him a monster contract? Like, haven't we learned our lesson just a little bit? Let's look at the Joel Embiid contract extension. Look at the Aaron Nola contract extension. And I know what you're thinking before I even have to read the text. Well, they never won a championship like he has. I get that. But it's all based off of future projection and what have you done for me lately, fair or not. You cannot give Jalen Hurts his next contract because of what he did 4 years ago. It's got to be this season.
Which I thought you made it perfectly clear. That is the main reason why it's a prove-it year. It's not about performance per se. It's about proving it that hey, I want another contract. I'm going to need one. Nobody goes in as a quarterback on a lame duck contract. And that's what he's going to be up against going into next year. Not this year coming up, the year after.
Yeah, this coming off season, like after this season completes, that's when Nicole Lynn, his agent, would go to the Eagles and say, hey, let's enter into a contract extension. Because he only has, I say only, it's all relative, but for a quarterback, this is not a lot. He only has $22 million guaranteed in the 27 season. That's not a lot of money. So they're going to ask for a new contract. That's why it's a prove-it year. I mean, even the biggest Jalen Hurts fan in the world, if he has a bad year with this new style offense, and there's all these questions about, man, maybe Jalen can't handle this offense and all. I'm not saying I expect it, but if it happens, Howie Roseman would be crazy to make him the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. So that's where it's a prove-it year. Jalen's going to want to get paid after this season, and I hope he earns that next contract this year. But you can't base it off of what he did in the past. It's got to be what he does this season. Now, look, the past plays a part in it. I'm not saying you ignore it entirely. You look to, he shows up in big moments. He's helped your team win a Super Bowl. He's a winner. All those intangibles. We love it. But a lot is riding on this season. That's why I feel comfortable saying it's still a prove-it year for him and the head coach.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. I can't sit back and say that it's not a prove-it year for Jalen Hurts, because if he wants a new contract, it is. I mean, it might just be in his eyes. I don't know about in the team's eyes, but I guess both would have to be, involved in the situation after the season that, he's going to want a new contract. Well, he better put up good numbers, or the team better do extremely well, or else we may be looking elsewhere. I think that's what makes it a prove-it year. So I guess, I think Jalen Hurts has to be on that. Now, Nick, on the other hand, I don't know what his leash is. That's the problem. I don't know, because all we hear is praise from Howie. All we hear is praise from Jeffrey Lurie. And I actually believe them. And I know, they're just going to throw it out there and see what sticks. I don't believe that. I think they understand how good Nick has been since he's been here. And I think Nick might have a longer leash than Jalen Hurts does.
Well, there's also one major difference as well. Nick Sirianni already got his new contract after the 2024 Super Bowl season.
All right.
He got his contract. He's not going to be asking for a new contract this coming off season.
What did he get, a 5-year?
The numbers were never reported. We think it was 5 years. They never told us how many years. They never told us how much money.
I'm trying to think after the 24. That would be 25, 26, 27.
It's got to be 5. I would think it's a 5-year contract, too. But
So it'd be
unlike
29.
Yeah, unlike Jalen, Nick's probably not going to them at the end of this coming season saying, I want a new deal. You know what I mean?
Or they'd be going in together.
But the difference is it's a prove-it year for Nick because we've seen coaches get turned over a lot. So if it's an ugly season, maybe they would consider a move at head coach. For Jalen, it's more about the contract, less about them moving on. But look, get your texts in, get your voice messages in. It's Tomahawk Thursday. We're giving away a Tomahawk steak courtesy of Wild Fork. Check them out. Area locations in Ardmore, Horsham, Neshaminy, and Cherry Hill. You could also order online, get same-day delivery. Wild Fork, your neighborhood meat and seafood market. All right, we've been doing Know the Show. So we asked a question about Silvana, and if you knew it, you texted in, you qualified. Now we're going to ask a question about Ricky Bo.
I don't have any.
You got to think of something. So I can actually think of something.
Go ahead.
Don't do something ultra easy.
Yeah, I want to do something hard about
do
Ricky
something like niche.
Let me think. What can I say about Ricky Bottalico? That would be that only if you paid attention to the show you would know it. Oh, let me think about it.
What color is the sweatsuit we make fun of him for wearing?
Oh, that's a good one.
That one's super niche.
I don't know what the color is.
You know what it is.
I don't even know the answer to that.
You know what it is.
Yeah.
The color
I'll
of
tell
the
you in
I
your
actually
ear.
only wore the matching thing once.
Okay, she just told me, and I remember it. You got to be a big listener of the show. All right, I'm going to throw it out there, see if anyone remembers. What is the color of the sweatsuit that Ricky wore that I made fun of him for?
But there's two colors, but it's the color you were making fun of was one.
Okay.
Does
he even know?
It was two colors.
No, it was one color.
It was not.
A matching sweatsuit.
Yes, but there were two actual colors.
Oh my God! No, you know what it. Don't overthink
You're talking about
it.
the dress shirt.
Don't overthink it, listener.
No,
All right, we'll see if the listeners know it.
Someone got it already.
Okay, someone got it.
Really?
So they clearly know it.
Yeah.
Text in the name of the sweatsuit, 610-632-0975. Coming up, we'll give you the answer. We got We Hear You Part 1, best voice messages of the show. And then 4:10, we will hear from Sean Mannion, new Eagles offensive coordinator. I'm really looking forward to that conversation. And 5 o'clock, Jason Stark. We got an action-packed show. So keep it here, Unfiltered. 97.5 The Fanatic, NBC Sports, Philadelphia.
Save.
Unfiltered. Ricky Bo, Bill Colarulo.
Philadelphia Sports Talk. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
All right, welcome back into Unfiltered. We were just having the Prove It Year discussion for Jalen and Nick. I went and I peeked at the Davis Honda text line because, man, blowing up with people saying some stuff. We'll talk about that in a second, but we just did a Know the Show question about Ricky Bo, and Silvana threw out what was the color of the sweatsuit that Ricky wore that we were making fun of, and I forgot until she said it in my ear, and I remembered instantly. You don't remember. I don't think you know what we're talking about.
Yeah,
It's
Plum.
plum.
It is plum.
Yes, that is correct.
But it had black on it. It was black with plum.
To hear you
It
just
was
say
like
plum.
it was
It was purple.
majority of it
dark
was plum.
purple.
You look good. God bless you, as we would say.
You're just an ass.
People
You looked
did
really
get it.
good.
You know what? At least my stuff, well, not necessarily.
This is a
fits,
little tight.
but-
This is a little. Yeah, this shirt's a little tight today.
What color is that thing?
I think it's like a gray.
See, you said you think, which means you don't really know. Like mine was green the other day. You had to, we had to have a big to do about it. That
Seafoam.
What kind of green was it?
Well, people were
I would say
guessing
it was
that.
probably olive.
It was a seafoam green
Are you
shirt.
blind? What olive
I don't
is
see
that color?
greens very well. I know it's green, but I don't know what color. This is greenish.
There you go. That's like a lime
that
green.
is green. It's not greenish. It is.
So
green.
that was the Know to Show. So people
Here's
got
the
it.
sage.
People got it. With
People
the,
did
with the
get
plum.
it.
All right, good
Dan
stuff.
from Warminster is the qualifier. Here's the first person to text it, and he actually got it right.
I saw a lot of people said purple, but we're going with
Yes.
plum on this.
Well, it was
I went
purple.
with plum.
Yeah. Also, we said earlier we got some really nice gifts sent to the studio from a listener, and she didn't put her name on it. She checked in. Shari from Harrisburg. Thank
Yes.
you very much for
Very,
the
very
thoughtful
much.
gifts and for listening to the show, Shari. But I was reading some before we get to the voice messages. We hear you. I was reading some of the texts on the Davis Honda text line.
Yeah, some of them are ruthless, huh?
Yeah, a lot of people are mad at me. A lot of people are mad at me for saying it's a prove it year for both guys. And people were mad that I was making the comparison between.
I'm so happy they don't come after me.
No, they don't. They don't. But people were mad that I was making the comparison between Hurts and Sirianni, and they were saying they haven't won anything because of Nick Sirianni, and you can't say that about Jalen. It's like, really?
Why can't you?
Like, first off, to say that you don't win because of the head coach shows that you don't understand what an NFL head coach does.
I have something to go along with this because I'm going to ask you something. What if Sean Mannion comes in here and nobody seems to grasp the offense? And it's not just Jalen's fault.
That's going to be a whole other question.
Well,
Yeah.
Jalen's probably going to be without his number one, and we'll get to that after June 1st. But you're bringing in a lot of new guys in those roles, probably in the receiver roles. You're probably going to have 3 different receivers out there, maybe 4 that Jalen really hasn't thrown to.
Well, we're going to hear from the new offensive coordinator in about 20 minutes. 4:10, we're going to carry that. But, look, I don't believe that this team won without Jalen, and I don't think they won without Nick. But to say, oh, well, they've never won anything with Nick, but they've won because of Jalen, they did have the best rushing attack in the NFL in 2024, did they not?
Yes, I would say that a big part of that season was because of a guy that came down from the Giants.
But I think it would be a simplistic view to say, well, Jalen had nothing to do with it. Because Jalen does help the rushing attack. Being that +1, the ability to pull it and run the RPO, it helps the rushing attack. But you wouldn't say that about the quarterback. But why do we say it about the head coach, which is arguably one of the most important coaching positions in all sports? I think the head coach is a very important position. You got to have your guys ready to play.
You know why people don't like it? Because you kiss his butt all the time.
Dude, I just said it's a prove-it year for Nick.
I know, but you do kiss his butt all the time. And I understand prove it. Yeah, but see,
here's the difference.
Wait a minute. Your prove it year for Nick is a disaster. Your definition of the prove it year was that they don't make the playoffs and things look ugly.
Yes.
That is a bunch of crap.
I think it's the same thing for Jalen. If Jalen doesn't look good.
Such a cop-out.
No.
It is such a cop-out. So basically the team has to completely fold.
Wait.
They're going to make the playoffs.
So
there's a very good chance they win the division.
Okay, you're telling me that if the Eagles win the division, that somehow that wouldn't be Nick Sirianni proving it 6 years in a row in the playoffs?
So if they win the division, lose the first round, what does that do for you?
He doesn't lose his job. There's no way he loses his job.
How about they make a wild card and they lose first playoff game?
I still don't think he would lose his job.
All right, so they got to really suck to lose a job.
Yes, when you have the resume.
So I don't think you can make that a prove-it year for him.
No, but with Jalen Hurts.
Number one, it's something you can't envision. But I don't know what's going on with me. I'm looking for a fight, and you do not want to jump in on this?
I want to keep fighting with you, but we have to get to We Hear You, because when you say that I kissed the coach's butt, no, I've just pointed out that this team has gone to 2 damn Super Bowls.
Really?
It's the same thing people do for the quarterback.
We send out another Twitter poll to our listeners. Does he kiss the coach's butt?
I'm saying it's a prove-it year for Nick. But at the same time, to ignore the coach's resume, but then tout the same resume for the quarterback makes no sense to me. It makes no sense.
Just tell him I said hi at dinner tonight.
I'm going to knock you out, boy. All right. I love you. All right. Let's get to We Hear You coming up, because we're going to lose. We're losing time here. We got to get to Sean Mannion in about 20 minutes. You know what, Sil? Let's get right to We Hear You. We won't even do the whole intro, but We Hear You brought to you by Rycor Heating and Cooling, local experts for energy-efficient heat pumps, lower utility bills, and year-round comfort. Learn more at rycorhvac.com. We do this again at 5:25, so if you don't hear your voice memo, we'll get to it a little bit later. Let's try to get some in, though.
All right, here's our first one.
Nola has a problem. How to fix it, I don't know. I think either you need some kind of coach who can help him or something. I don't know what to tell you to do. What's going on in the farm system? Don't they have any good pitchers in the farm system that they can bring back up? So far, what they brought up has been much. The Sugar seems to be halfway decent. If they want to keep him, and Keller, no, he doesn't impress me at all. I don't think he's worth having around. I think they gave him too much money.
Yeah, that's our man, Bud.
Well, it's 2 years in a row they've gone after that big reliever, and right now it's not looking great. I think Keller can be better than he's been, so I'm not pushing the complete panic button yet on Keller. But, I mean, as far as, like, Sugar goes, I don't see him as a 7th, 8th inning guy right now.
What about his Bud's question? Is there anybody in AAA or AA that could come up and be a starter? Gage Wood just got to AA.
He's just starting. You know what I said about Andrew Painter and the prospects? That I don't want to hear it anymore. This is kind of up in that alley that the kid is in AA because he had a great College World Series and he's been good in his first quarter of a year. in the minors does not make him a major leaguer. Not yet.
All right, let's get another one.
Bill. You got it all wrong. That's not how the expression goes. The expression goes, the greatest invention since sliced bread. Because bread was made whole and you have to slice it at home. So they invented the bread slicer, which was a great invention. Thus the term greatest invention since sliced bread.
He's
that.
wrong. He's wrong.
He's correct.
He is 100% wrong. He's not wrong that it's based off of the invention of slicing bread. But the saying and the expression is the best thing since sliced bread.
I've never heard that, but that's fine.
Oh, get out of here.
Oh, please, Ricky. Come on. You can't say you
were
never
on my
heard
side
it.
earlier.
I was. No, I am on your side that it is a thing.
I heard it as the way he put it, the invention.
No, you're both full of it. All right?
I've heard both.
It's the best thing since sliced bread. I'm right,
People
as always.
modify it,
you're not.
As always. All right, but here's what we got going on.
Too far.
I know we have a lot more voice memos. All right, we're going to do this again at 5:25, but we got to get to Sean Mannion. I want to hear what he has to say. So here's what we got coming up, all right? We will do more voice memos at 5:25, but coming up next, a little Gimme More at 4 with Silvana, and that's going to lead us right into Sean Mannion, new offensive coordinator for the Eagles, speaking for the first time, so do not go anywhere. Very quickly, though, let's update the Twitter poll asking bigger concern, bullpen or starting rotation for the Fightin' Phils. Twitter poll, always standing strong. Thanks to Dr. Avi Donapel of Iron Mountain Men's Health. What do we got, Sil?
All right, 63% are saying the bullpen is more concerning for the Phils, 37% for the starting rotation.
All right, so at least they agree with Ricky on something. How about that?
Pretty much everything.
How about that?
All right, coming up next, Gimme More at 4, and then new offensive coordinator Sean Mannion. Keep it here, unfiltered. 97.5 The Fanatic, NBC Sports, Philadelphia.